Maverick, a K-9 hero, senses danger in a hospital where his partner Ethan lies unconscious. A disguised doctor's deadly plot sparks a race against the Viper Syndicate's nerve agent attack on Westport. Can Maverick's instincts save the city? Unravel the thrilling mystery. Subscribe now. Now, let's begin. In the intensive care unit of Clearwater Memorial Hospital, the fluorescent lights cast a harsh glow over the pale face of K-9 officer Ethan Reeves. His loyal German Shepherd, Maverick, pressed his nose against the observation window, eyes sharp and alert. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. Maverick tracked the movements of the doctor inside the room, a low growl rumbling from deep in his throat, catching the attention of Officer Cassandra Cass Winters. Maverick had never acted this way around any of the other medical staff, but when the man posing as a doctor began adjusting Ethan's medication, Maverick's reaction intensified, his hackles rising along his spine. Maverick remembered the chaos at Westport International Airport, the gunshots, the sharp chemical scent in the air, and the sight of Ethan collapsing after being shot. That same scent now clung to the man inside the room, triggering every protective instinct in the German Shepherd's powerful body. The dog didn't fully understand the complexities of the situation, but his instincts were crystal clear. This man carried the same dangerous scent as the suspects they had encountered at the airport. In Maverick's mind, one thing was certain: Ethan needed protection at all costs. Cass approached the agitated dog, placing a calming hand on his back. At 34, she was a seasoned officer with over a decade on the force. Her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, her olive complexion showing the fatigue of the past 12 hours. "Easy, Maverick," she whispered, though her own instincts were beginning to sound alarms. She had worked with K-9 units long enough to know their reactions were rarely without cause. Maverick's muscles tensed beneath her fingers, his amber eyes never leaving the figure moving around Ethan's bed. The doctor adjusted an IV line, his back to the observation window. Something about his movements seemed calculated, almost rehearsed, lacking the natural efficiency of medical professionals Cass had observed since arriving at the hospital. 12 hours earlier, Westport International Airport had been as busy as ever, with thousands of travelers moving through the crowded terminals. The air had been thick with a mixture of perfumes, fast food, and the distinct odor of too many bodies in too little space. Officer Ethan Reeves and Maverick were on their routine patrol near the security checkpoints, their familiar presence a comfort to regular travelers and airport staff alike. Ethan, at 37, was an imposing figure, 6'2" with broad shoulders and a quiet confidence that commanded respect without demanding it. His short-cropped, dark blonde hair and the faint scar above his right eyebrow gave him a distinguished appearance, while his green eyes reflected both intelligence and compassion. He had served 8 years with the K-9 unit, and Maverick had been his partner for 5 of those years. Bright lights from electronic signs reflected off the polished floors, but Maverick remained focused, his ears twitching slightly as he scanned the area. The German Shepherd was always on high alert, never letting his guard down during duty. Suddenly, Maverick came to an abrupt stop. His ears perked up, and his amber eyes fixed intently on the direction of the international terminal. Slowly, he sniffed the air, detecting something unusual that cut through the airport's typical olfactory chaos. After a moment, he glanced up at Ethan, his posture signaling an alert. "What is it, Maverick? You catch something?" Ethan asked in a low voice, his hand instinctively moving to the radio clipped to his tactical vest. Years of partnership had taught him to trust the dog's senses implicitly. Maverick didn't give his usual signal for narcotics or explosives, but continued sniffing the air, his body language indicating something different, something potentially more dangerous. Ethan's instincts kicked in immediately. Whatever Maverick had picked up, it was serious. Without hesitation, he followed Maverick's lead, his hand resting lightly on his holstered weapon as they moved through the terminal, heading toward checkpoint 3. With every step, the strange chemical scent became stronger to Maverick's sensitive nose. An acrid, synthetic odor that didn't belong among the normal smells of an airport. As they approached the area, Ethan spotted a group of 4 men pushing large pieces of luggage through the security lanes. Their movements just a fraction too coordinated, too deliberate. Maverick let out a low growl, his gaze locked on the group. Ethan noticed the change in his partner's body language immediately. The slight stiffening of his spine, the forward set of his ears, the intensity in his amber eyes. "Excuse me, gentlemen, I need to inspect your luggage," Ethan said firmly, keeping his voice calm but authoritative as he approached the group. The men froze for a second, exchanging nervous glances. Then, without warning, one of the men bolted, abandoning his luggage and sprinting toward the nearest exit. "Stop! Police!" Ethan shouted, drawing his weapon in one fluid motion. The terminal erupted in chaos as another of the fleeing man's accomplices pulled out a gun and fired. The sharp crack of the gunshot reverberated through the terminal, followed by screams as passengers scrambled for cover, dropping bags and knocking over chairs in their panic. Maverick took off in a blur of motion, chasing the man who had run. His powerful legs propelled him forward, weaving through the crowd with an agility that belied his size. Meanwhile, Ethan ducked behind a pillar, narrowly avoiding a bullet that grazed his shoulder. The pain shot through his arm like fire, but he kept moving, firing back at the gunman while calling for backup over the radio. "Officer needs assistance at International Terminal Checkpoint 3. Shots fired, suspects armed and dangerous." His voice was steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through his system. On the other side of the terminal, Maverick had already closed the distance between himself and the fleeing suspect. With a powerful leap, the dog knocked the man to the ground, clamping his jaws around the suspect's arm before he could reach for a weapon concealed in his jacket. The man screamed in pain and fear, trying to shake off the German Shepherd, but Maverick held firm, his training ensuring he maintained control without causing critical injury. Ethan, despite his wound, managed to reach them and handcuff the man just as airport security reinforcements arrived, their weapons drawn as they secured the area. 2 more suspects were cornered by responding officers, but the 4th had disappeared in the chaos. Breathing heavily, Ethan could feel the sharp pain intensifying in his shoulder, blood seeping through his uniform. He glanced at Maverick, who stood protectively by his side, his eyes full of concern and vigilance. "We got them, Maverick. It's over," Ethan murmured before the edges of his vision began to darken. The last thing he remembered was Maverick's anxious whine as he collapsed from blood loss and shock. Maverick didn't move an inch as paramedics rushed to Ethan's side. He stayed vigilant, watching every movement, only stepping back when Cass arrived and gave him the command to allow the medical team to work. Yet in the back of the dog's mind, the chemical scent still lingered, a silent warning that this was far from over. Now, 12 hours later in the ICU of Clearwater Memorial, that same warning was sounding again as Maverick observed the unfamiliar doctor adjusting Ethan's medications. Dr. Sophia Chen, the ICU physician on duty, approached Cass and Maverick, her brow furrowed with concern. At 42, Dr. Chen had worked in the hospital for over 15 years and had a reputation for her sharp intuition and no-nonsense approach. "Is he only reacting like this to this particular doctor?" she asked Cass, her dark eyes studying Maverick's behavior with professional interest. "Yeah, it just started when that doctor entered Ethan's room," Cass replied, her hand still resting on Maverick's tense back. "He's been calm with all the other medical staff." Dr. Chen's eyes narrowed as she watched the doctor through the observation window. "I don't recognize him," she said quietly, "and I know every doctor assigned to the ICU." Before Cass could respond, the shrill alarm of Ethan's heart monitor cut through the air. Both women turned their attention to the window. Inside the room, the doctor was frantically adjusting Ethan's IV line as his vital signs began to plummet. Maverick suddenly lunged forward, his leash straining under the force. Cass had to brace herself, struggling to hold the powerful dog back. Maverick barked sharply, the sound echoing through the sterile hospital corridor like a warning siren. Dr. Chen's expression hardened. "That's not right," she said, moving quickly toward the door. "His heart rate shouldn't be dropping like that after the medication I prescribed." Just as she reached for the door handle, the man inside looked up, his eyes meeting Maverick's through the observation window. For a split second, something changed in his expression, a flicker of recognition, followed by fear, quickly masked by cold calculation. The man abruptly abandoned what he was doing and strode toward the service elevator at the end of the hallway, his movements suddenly purposeful and urgent. "Stop him!" Dr. Chen shouted, pushing through the door into Ethan's room to check his vitals. But Maverick was already ahead of the command. Years of training and countless hours of pursuit drills kicked in as the dog broke free from his leash with a powerful lunge. His claws clattered against the polished floor as he sprinted down the hall, closing the distance with lightning speed. Cass was only steps behind, drawing her weapon as she ran. "Security, stop that man!" she shouted to the hospital staff. The chase had begun, and Maverick's instincts were crystal clear. The threat to his partner was real, and he would not let it escape. Maverick charged down the hospital corridor, his powerful legs propelling him forward with single-minded determination. His claws scraped against the polished floor, the sound echoing through the hallways as the German Shepherd pushed himself to full speed. The scent of the imposter filled his nostrils, driving him onward with even greater urgency. Ahead, the man posing as a doctor sprinted toward the service elevator, frantically jabbing the button to close the doors. His face, once composed and professional, now contorted with panic as he glanced over his shoulder to see the German Shepherd gaining ground with each powerful stride. Cass and hospital security followed as fast as they could, but they couldn't match Maverick's speed. The distance between them and the dog grew with each second. "Maverick, apprehend!" Cass shouted, though the dog needed no further prompting. Maverick understood his mission perfectly. This man had threatened Ethan, and he would not escape. The elevator doors began to slide shut just as Maverick surged forward in a final burst of speed. With a powerful leap that showcased years of training, he sailed through the narrowing gap, barely squeezing inside before the doors sealed completely. Inside the elevator, the imposter backed against the wall, his eyes wide with terror as he faced the snarling German Shepherd. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he pulled a small tactical knife from his coat pocket, its blade glinting under the harsh elevator lights. "Stay back, dog," he hissed, his voice stripped of the professional tone he had affected earlier. But Maverick didn't hesitate. With a deep, ferocious growl that reverberated in the confined space, he launched himself at the man, targeting the arm holding the knife. His powerful jaws clamped down with precision, applying enough pressure to cause pain without severing arteries, exactly as he had been trained. The man let out a blood-curdling scream as he struggled to free himself, but Maverick's grip was unrelenting. The knife clattered to the floor as blood began to drip from the wound. "Get off me!" the man yelled, thrashing around in desperation, his free hand trying to strike Maverick's head. But Maverick held firm, using his weight to keep the suspect off balance. The man stumbled and fell to the floor of the elevator, still struggling against the dog's powerful hold. At that moment, the elevator doors opened on the ground floor, revealing Cass and two hospital security guards rushing toward them, having taken the stairs in pursuit. "Maverick, release!" Cass commanded sharply. Maverick obeyed immediately, releasing the suspect's arm, but remaining in a defensive stance. His body positioned between the man and the exit, growling low in his throat. Blood dripped from his jaws, but his focus never wavered. The security guards moved quickly, pinning the man to the wall and securing his hands behind his back with zip ties. As they pulled him to his feet, a hospital ID badge slipped from his pocket, clattering to the floor. Cass picked it up, studying the credentials with narrowed eyes. "Dr. James Wilson, Neurology," she read aloud, her voice thick with suspicion. "Except the photo doesn't match our suspect." She looked up at the man whose face was now pale with pain and fear. "Who are you and what were you doing to Officer Reeves?" The man remained silent, his eyes darting around as if looking for an escape route. "Get him to security," Cass ordered the guards. "I want him searched thoroughly, and call Detective Marcus Rivera immediately. Tell him we have a suspect in custody related to the airport shooting." As the guards led the man away, Cass knelt beside Maverick, checking him for injuries. The dog's breathing was still rapid from the chase, but his eyes remained fixed on the retreating suspect. "Good boy, Maverick," she said softly, running her hands through his thick fur. "You saved Ethan. Again." Maverick leaned slightly into her touch but remained alert. The chemical scent that had triggered his initial reaction was still present on the suspect. confirming his instincts had been correct. Together, they hurried back to the ICU, taking the stairs two at a time. When they arrived at Ethan's room, Dr. Chen was already working to stabilize him, her movements efficient and precise as she adjusted his medication and monitored his vital signs. "How is he?" Cass asked, breathless from the climb. Dr. Chen's expression was grim as she checked Ethan's pupils with a penlight. He was given a powerful sedative that wasn't prescribed, something that would have suppressed his respiratory system if I hadn't caught it in time. She looked up, her dark eyes intense. "Your dog saved his life. Another few minutes and the damage might have been irreversible." Maverick moved to Ethan's bedside, gently placing his head near his partner's hand. A soft whine escaped his throat as he watched Ethan's chest rise and fall with each breath. "I need to examine what was in that IV," Dr. Chen continued, carefully removing the bag of fluid that the imposter had been adjusting. "And we need to secure this room immediately. No one enters without proper identification and verification." Cass nodded, already making the call to hospital security to arrange for a guard outside Ethan's door. As she spoke, her eyes fell on Maverick, who had settled into a protective position beside the bed, his body alert despite the exhaustion that must have been setting in after the chase. "And we'll need to run a full toxicology screen," Dr. Chen added, placing the IV bag in a sealed container. Whatever they were trying to administer, it wasn't standard medication. Maverick's ears perked up suddenly and he rose to his feet, moving toward a small refrigerator in the corner of the room where certain temperature-sensitive medications were stored. The dog sat down in front of the unit, his posture signaling a target. Cass and Dr. Chen exchanged glances. "There's something in there," Cass said quietly, carefully opening the lower compartment. Inside, they found a small package taped to the compressor. When Dr. Chen removed it, she discovered several unmarked vials, each bearing a strange symbol, a stylized eagle with a serpent in its talons. "This isn't standard medication," she said, inspecting the vials through the packaging without opening it. "I've never seen anything like this in our pharmacy." Cass's expression darkened as a memory surfaced. "I've seen that symbol before, on one of the suspects at the airport," she recalled, her voice tight with realization. "The one who got away. They followed Ethan here," Dr. Chen concluded, carefully placing the package in the same container as the IV bag. "This wasn't random. They were trying to finish what they started." Maverick returned to Ethan's side, his vigilance undiminished. He understood more than they realized, that the danger hadn't passed, that the scent of threat still lingered in the air, that his partner remained vulnerable. As hospital security arrived to guard the room, Cass pulled out her phone to call Detective Rivera with an update. This was no longer just about an airport shooting. This was a targeted attack on a police officer, and the implications were far more sinister than they had initially believed. Maverick settled into position at the foot of Ethan's bed, his amber eyes fixed on the door. His mission was clear: protect Ethan at all costs, no matter what dangers might still be lurking in the shadows. Detective Marcus Rivera arrived at Clearwater Memorial Hospital within 30 minutes of Cass's call, his weathered face set in grim lines that deepened the scar running along his left jawline. At 45, Rivera had spent over 2 decades with the Westport Police Department, the last 12 in homicide. His reputation for thoroughness was matched only by his unwavering dedication to fellow officers. He nodded briefly to Cass as he entered the ICU waiting area, his dark eyes quickly assessing the situation. "What do we know?" he asked without preamble, his voice carrying the slight rasp that had become his trademark after a throat injury years earlier. Cass led him to a quiet corner, Maverick padding silently beside her. The German Shepherd had reluctantly left Ethan's bedside only after security had been posted, and Dr. Chen had promised to stay with him. "The suspect is in custody downstairs," Cass began, running a hand through her disheveled hair. "He was posing as a doctor, using stolen credentials." Maverick recognized his scent from the airport incident, the same chemical signature he alerted to before the shooting. Rivera's eyebrows rose slightly. "The dog made that connection?" "Without question," Cass affirmed. "He went from calm to aggressive the moment this fake doctor entered Ethan's room." Dr. Chen confirmed he was administering an unauthorized sedative that could have been fatal. Rivera nodded slowly, his respect for K-9 units visibly increasing. He crouched down to Maverick's level, meeting the dog's intelligent gaze. "Good work," he said simply before standing again. "In the vials you found?" "Dr. Chen is having them analyzed now," Cass replied. "But they bear the same symbol we saw on one of the airport suspects, a stylized eagle with a serpent." Rivera's expression darkened. "The Viper Syndicate," he muttered almost to himself. "You know them?" Cass asked, surprise evident in her voice. Rivera glanced around before responding, ensuring no one was within earshot. "They're an international smuggling operation, primarily dealing in synthetic drugs and chemical weapons components. We've been tracking their movements for months, but this is the first time they've shown up in Westport." He paused, his gaze returning to Maverick. "Your dog may have stumbled onto something much bigger than a simple smuggling operation." Maverick's ears perked up at Rivera's tone, sensing the gravity of the conversation even if he couldn't understand the words. His instincts had been correct. The threat was far from over. "I need to question our suspect," Rivera continued, "and we need to secure Officer Reeves. If the syndicate is targeting him specifically, they won't stop with one failed attempt." "Why would they target Ethan?" Cass asked, the question that had been nagging at her since the incident. Rivera's expression was grim. "That's what we need to find out. In the meantime, I'm assigning a protective detail to this hospital. No one gets near Reeves without proper clearance." As if on cue, Maverick's head turned sharply toward the elevator, a low growl building in his throat. The doors opened to reveal a tall woman in a crisp suit, her blonde hair pulled back in a severe bun, her blue eyes scanning the area with practiced efficiency. "Agent Catherine Blackwood, FBI," she announced, approaching Rivera and flashing her credentials. "I understand you have a suspect in custody connected to the Viper Syndicate." Rivera's posture stiffened slightly. "News travels fast," he observed, his tone neutral, but his eyes wary. "We're still confirming the connection." Agent Blackwood's gaze shifted to Maverick, who had positioned himself protectively in front of Cass, his hackles slightly raised. "This must be the K-9 that identified our suspect," she said, her expression softening marginally. "Impressive work. How did the FBI know about our suspect so quickly?" Cass asked, her hand resting reassuringly on Maverick's back. "We've had the syndicate under surveillance for months," Blackwood replied smoothly. "When their operatives were apprehended at the airport, it triggered alerts throughout our system. The hospital incident only confirmed our suspicions that they're planning something significant in Westport." Rivera and Cass exchanged glances, both recognizing there was more to the story than Blackwood was sharing. "I'd like to join the interrogation," Blackwood continued, her tone making it clear this wasn't a request. "The syndicate has been on our radar for international trafficking of chemical weapons components. If they're targeting a specific officer, we need to know why." Before Rivera could respond, Dr. Chen emerged from the ICU, her expression troubled as she approached the group. "Detective, we have a problem," she said, her voice low but urgent. "The preliminary analysis of those vials shows traces of VX7, an experimental nerve agent developed for military applications. It's highly controlled and extremely lethal." The implications hung heavy in the air. This wasn't just an attempt on Ethan's life. It was potentially part of something far more sinister. "Where would the syndicate get access to a military-grade nerve agent?" Cass asked, looking between Rivera and Blackwood. "That's what concerns me," Blackwood replied, her professional demeanor cracking slightly to reveal genuine alarm. "VX7 is supposed to be secured in government facilities. If the syndicate has acquired it, we're looking at a national security threat." Maverick, sensing the rising tension, pressed closer to Cass, his amber eyes fixed on Blackwood with an intensity that suggested he was assessing her as carefully as any suspect. "We need to move Reeves to a secure location," Rivera decided, his voice firm. "If the syndicate is determined to silence him, the hospital is too vulnerable, even with added security." "Agreed, Makun," Blackwood nodded. "But first, we need to understand what Officer Reeves and his K-9 discovered that made them targets. The answer might be crucial to stopping whatever the syndicate is planning." Dr. Chen shook her head. "Officer Reeves isn't stable enough to be moved yet, and he's still unconscious from the sedative. It will be at least 24 hours before he can be safely transported. Then we secure this floor completely," Rivera instructed. No one without proper clearance gets anywhere near him, and we interrogate our suspect immediately. As they discussed security arrangements, Maverick's attention shifted suddenly to the stairwell door, his body tensing as he detected a familiar scent. The same chemical signature, but from a different individual. Before anyone could react, he was moving, a blur of motion as he sprinted toward the door just as it began to open. A man in hospital scrubs froze at the sight of the charging German Shepherd, his hand instinctively reaching inside his jacket. Cass saw the movement and drew her weapon in one fluid motion. "Police, don't move!" she shouted, but the man was already retreating back into the stairwell. Maverick hit the door at full speed, forcing it open as the suspect fled downward. The chase was on again, with Cass and Rivera close behind. "Lock down the hospital," Rivera called to security as they passed. "Possible armed suspect in the stairwell." Blackwood was already on her radio, coordinating with FBI agents positioned outside the hospital. "All exits covered," she confirmed, joining the pursuit. Maverick's focus was absolute as he bounded down the stairs, the suspect's scent guiding him through the concrete stairwell. This was what he had been trained for: the pursuit, the protection, the unwavering dedication to his mission. And right now, his mission was clear: stop the threat to his partner, no matter the cost. The suspect reached the ground floor and burst through the exit door, emerging into the hospital's busy parking garage. He sprinted between parked cars, heading toward a black sedan with tinted windows idling near the exit. Maverick closed the distance with each powerful stride, the gap narrowing as the suspect approached the waiting vehicle. With a final surge of speed, the German Shepherd launched himself through the air, his jaws clamping around the man's arm just as he reached for the car door. The suspect went down hard, crying out in pain as Maverick maintained his hold, preventing him from reaching whatever weapon was concealed in his jacket. The black sedan's engine revved, but its escape was blocked by two FBI vehicles that screeched to a halt at the garage exit. Cass arrived seconds later, her weapon trained on the downed suspect as Rivera secured the area. "Maverick, hold!" she commanded, and the dog maintained his grip, keeping the suspect immobilized. As agents surrounded the sedan, apprehending its driver, Rivera approached the man pinned by Maverick, his expression grim but satisfied. "You picked the wrong officer to target," he told the suspect as he applied handcuffs, "and definitely the wrong K9 to underestimate." Maverick released his hold only when commanded, his amber eyes never leaving the suspect as he was secured in search. A syringe filled with clear liquid was found in his jacket pocket, along with another vial bearing the syndicate's eagle and serpent symbol. "Another attempt," Blackwood observed, examining the syringe without touching it. "They're determined." "But why?" Cass questioned, kneeling beside Maverick and checking him for injuries. "What did Ethan and Maverick discover that's worth killing for?" Rivera's phone buzzed with an incoming message. He checked it, his expression growing even more serious. "The luggage they were trying to smuggle through the airport," he said, looking up at the group. "Initial tests show it contained components that, when assembled, could disperse VX-7 over a wide area. A chemical weapon," Blackwood concluded, her voice tight, "designed for mass casualties. And somehow, Officer Reeves and his K9 partner stumbled onto their operation," Rivera added, looking at Maverick with newfound respect, "which makes them the only ones who might have seen something crucial, something worth killing to keep secret." Maverick stood alert beside Cass, his mission far from complete. The threat had been temporarily neutralized, but his instincts told him this was just the beginning. Until Ethan was safe and the danger eliminated, he would remain vigilant. As they led the suspect away, Maverick's gaze lingered on the black sedan now surrounded by federal agents. His sensitive nose had detected something else, another scent, familiar yet elusive, that triggered a memory from the airport. There had been a fourth suspect who escaped during the chaos, and somehow Maverick sensed they were still out there, still hunting. The battle was far from over, and Maverick was ready for whatever came next. His partner's life depended on it. The steady beep of medical monitors filled Ethan's ICU room, a rhythmic reminder that he remained stable despite the attempts on his life. It had been 18 hours since Maverick had thwarted the second assassination attempt, and security around Clearwater Memorial Hospital had been transformed into what resembled a military operation. FBI agents patrolled the corridors, hospital staff underwent rigorous identity verification before entering the ICU, and a rotation of police officers maintained a constant presence outside Ethan's room. At the center of this security web, Maverick remained the most vigilant guardian, refusing to leave his partner's side except for brief, necessary breaks. The German Shepherd lay at the foot of Ethan's bed, his amber eyes constantly scanning the room, his ears shifting at every new sound. Despite his alertness, exhaustion was evident in his posture. He had barely slept since the airport incident, his protective instincts overriding his physical needs. Cass entered the room quietly, carrying a bowl of water and some food for Maverick. Dark circles under her eyes betrayed her own lack of rest, but her movements were still precise, her awareness undiminished. "You need to eat something, Maverick," she said softly, placing the bowl near him. "You can't protect him if you're too weak to stand." Maverick acknowledged her with a glance, but made no move toward the food, his attention returning to Ethan's still form. Dr. Chen followed Cass into the room, checking Ethan's vital signs with practiced efficiency. "His labs are improving," she reported, reviewing the chart. "The sedative is finally clearing his system. He should regain consciousness soon." "Any permanent damage?" Cass asked, the question that had been weighing on everyone's mind. Dr. Chen shook her head. "Not from the sedative, thankfully, and the gunshot wound was relatively clean. Damaged muscle, but no major vascular involvement. He was lucky." She paused, glancing at Maverick. "Or rather, he has an exceptional partner." As if understanding the compliment, Maverick's ears perked up slightly, though his vigilance never wavered. "Detective Rivera and Agent Blackwood are interrogating the suspects now," Cass informed Dr. Chen, keeping her voice low despite the privacy of the room. "So far, they're not talking much, but we've identified them as known syndicate operatives." "And the nerve agent?" Dr. Chen asked, concern evident in her tone. "Contained for now. The FBI has secured the vials and the components found in the luggage, but without knowing the syndicate's target or timeline." Cass left the sentence unfinished, the implications clear. A soft groan from the bed instantly captured their attention. Ethan's fingers twitched, his eyelids fluttering as he fought his way back to consciousness. Maverick was on his feet immediately, moving to the head of the bed, his tail wagging slightly for the first time since the incident. "Ethan?" Cass called gently, stepping closer. "Can you hear me?" Ethan's eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, then gradually sharpening as he became aware of his surroundings. His gaze fell on Maverick, whose tail now wagged with cautious optimism. "Hey, buddy," Ethan whispered, his voice hoarse from disuse. He tried to lift his hand to touch the dog, but winced at the movement, the pain from his shoulder wound still acute. "Easy," Dr. Chen cautioned, adjusting his position slightly. "You've been through a lot. Take it slow." Confusion crossed Ethan's features as he took in the hospital room, the security visible through the window, and the evident exhaustion on Cass's face. "What happened?" he asked, his memory clearly fragmented. "The airport. You were shot during the confrontation," Cass explained gently. "Maverick apprehended one suspect, but there's been complications since then." Dr. Chen checked Ethan's pupils with a penlight, satisfied with his neurological responses. "What's the last thing you remember, Officer Reeves?" Ethan's brow furrowed with concentration. "The airport." Maverick alerted to something. Not drugs, not explosives. Something different. He paused, the effort of remembering clearly taxing. Men with luggage. They ran. There was gunfire. His hand instinctively moved toward his injured shoulder. "I was hit. Anything else when I..." Cass pressed gently. "Anything about the suspects or what they were carrying?" Ethan closed his eyes, focusing. 4 men, 3 apprehended. The 4th? His eyes snapped open suddenly, a flash of recognition lighting his features. "The 4th man, I know him." Cass and Dr. Chen exchanged glances. "You recognize one of the suspects?" Cass asked, immediately alert. "Not from the force, not a criminal I've arrested him," Ethan clarified, his voice growing stronger as his memory solidified. "From before? Military. His name is..." He grimaced, frustration evident as the name eluded him. Maverick whined softly, pressing his muzzle gently against Ethan's hand, offering comfort and encouragement. Mercer, Ethan finally said, the name emerging from the fog of his memory. Victor Mercer. We served together in Afghanistan, Special Forces. He was dishonorably discharged after an incident involving missing chemical weapons. Cass was already texting Rivera with this new information. This changes everything, she said, her voice tight with urgency. If Mercer has military training and access to chemical weapons knowledge, the Syndicate recruited him specifically for this operation. Ethan concluded, the pieces falling into place. Whatever they're planning, it's sophisticated and likely on a large scale. Dr. Chen checked Ethan's monitors, concerned about his elevated heart rate. You need to rest, she insisted. Your body is still recovering from trauma and the drugs they administered. Ethan shook his head, wincing at the movement. There's no time. If Mercer is involved, this is bigger than we thought. He was an expert in chemical dispersal systems, designed to deliver non-lethal agents in urban environments. His expression darkened. But those same systems could be modified for lethal compounds. Like VX-7, Cass added grimly. Exactly, Ethan confirmed, alarm evident in his voice. Exactly, Ethan confirmed, alarm evident in his voice. Mercer knows how to maximize casualties in densely populated areas. If he's working with the Syndicate, they're planning something catastrophic. Maverick sensed Ethan's distress, pressing closer to his partner while maintaining his alert posture. The dog's ears flicked toward the door seconds before it opened, revealing Detective Rivera and Agent Blackwood. Reeves, Rivera acknowledged, relief evident in his typically stoic expression. Good to see you conscious. Officer Reeves has remembered something crucial, Cass informed them immediately. He recognized the fourth suspect from the airport, Victor Mercer, former Special Forces with expertise in chemical weapons deployment systems. Blackwood's professional composure slipped momentarily, revealing genuine alarm. Mercer is on our watch list, she confirmed, approaching Ethan's bed. He disappeared 3 years ago after being connected to several black market weapons deals. We suspected he'd gone international, but we had no concrete evidence linking him to the Syndicate until now. What was in those bags at the airport? Ethan asked, struggling to sit up despite Dr. Chen's disapproving frown. Rivera and Blackwood exchanged glances before Rivera answered. Components for a sophisticated aerosol dispersal system capable of releasing airborne agents over approximately a half-mile radius. When assembled with the VX-7 nerve agent we found in your room, it would create a weapon capable of causing mass casualties. A terrorist attack, Ethan concluded, his voice barely above a whisper. The question is where and when, Blackwood added, her tone grim. Our suspects aren't talking, and we have no intel on Mercer's current location or the Syndicate's timeline. Ethan's gaze shifted to Maverick, who remained vigilant beside him. Maverick might be able to help with that, he said, an idea forming. He alerted to a specific chemical signature at the airport, something distinct enough that he recognized it again on the fake doctors here. You think he could track it? Rivera asked, his interest piqued. If Mercer and the Syndicate are working with these chemicals, they'll have traces on them. Their clothing, their equipment, Ethan explained. Maverick's been trained for scent-specific tracking. If we give him something with the same chemical signature, he might be able to lead us to their base of operations. Dr. Chen shook her head firmly. You're in no condition to lead a tracking operation, she objected. Your body has been through significant trauma, and the sedative they administered is still affecting your system. I don't need to go, Ethan clarified, though the frustration in his voice made it clear he wished otherwise. Maverick can work with Officer Winters. They've trained together before. Cass nodded in confirmation. We've done joint exercises. He responds well to my commands in Ethan's absence. Blackwood considered this option, her analytical mind weighing the risks and benefits. It could work, she conceded. We have samples of the chemical components from the airport seizure. If the K-9 can track similar traces, it might lead us to their operation before they can execute their plan. Maverick's ears perked up at the shift in conversation, his intelligent eyes moving between the humans as if understanding the importance of their discussion. There's another problem, Rivera interjected, his expression grave. "We still don't know why they're so determined to eliminate Officer Reeves. 2 attempts in less than 24 hours suggests he saw or knows something critical, something that threatens their entire operation." All eyes turned to Ethan, who closed his eyes in concentration, trying to piece together the fragmented memories of the airport incident. "There was something," he began slowly. "When Maverick first alerted, before the confrontation, I saw one of the men hand something to another passenger, a woman in a red coat. She wasn't with them. She continued through security while they were detained. A dead drop," Blackwood realized immediately. "They were passing something to another operative." "Did you see her face?" Rivera pressed. Ethan shook his head, wincing at the movement. "Not clearly, but she had distinctive white blonde hair, and she was carrying a blue laptop bag with a university logo." "Westport University," Cass suggested, the local institution coming immediately to mind. "That would make sense," Blackwood agreed. "The university has several research departments that work with chemical compounds, including some with government contracts. It would be the perfect cover for accessing restricted materials or knowledge." "We need to find this woman," Rivera decided, already reaching for his phone. "And we need to get Maverick that scent sample for tracking. If the syndicate is planning an attack, we're running out of time." Dr. Chen checked Ethan's vitals once more, concern evident in her expression. "Officer Reeves needs rest," she insisted. "His condition is stable but still vulnerable to setbacks." "I'll stay with him," Rivera offered, surprising everyone with his uncharacteristic volunteering. "Winters and the K-9 can handle the tracking operation with Agent Blackwood and her team." Ethan looked as though he wanted to object, but the exhaustion evident in his features betrayed his physical limitations. He turned to Maverick, extending his hand to the German Shepherd, who immediately pressed his muzzle against his partner's palm. "Go with Cass, Maverick," he instructed softly. "Find them." Maverick whined softly, clearly reluctant to leave Ethan's side after the attempts on his life. "It's okay, buddy," Ethan assured him. "This is important. You can do this." After a moment of apparent internal conflict, Maverick's posture shifted subtly, his training and sense of duty overriding his protective instinct. He looked toward Cass, then back to Ethan, as if confirming the transfer of responsibility. "I'll keep him safe," Cass promised, both to Ethan and to Maverick. "And we'll find Mercer and the syndicate before they can execute their plan." As preparations began for the tracking operation, Maverick remained beside Ethan for a few more precious moments, his amber eyes fixed on his partner, with an intensity that communicated more than words ever could. In that gaze was a promise to complete the mission and return, to protect not just Ethan, but countless innocent lives that now depended on his extraordinary abilities. The weight of this responsibility settled on the German Shepherd's powerful shoulders, a burden he accepted without hesitation. This was what he had been trained for, what he had been born to do, to serve, to protect, to use his remarkable gifts in the pursuit of justice. With one last gentle touch from Ethan, Maverick turned to follow Cass, his stride purposeful, his senses already preparing for the challenge ahead. The hunt was about to begin, and failure was not an option. The Westport Police Department's forensic lab hummed with activity as technicians prepared the scent sample for Maverick. The German Shepherd stood attentively beside Cass, his posture alert but controlled, aware of the importance of the task ahead. Dr. Lydia Patel, the department's lead forensic chemist, carefully handled a sealed container holding fabric swatches impregnated with the chemical signature found on the airport suspects and in the vials from the hospital. "We've isolated the distinct compounds that make up the VX7 precursors," she explained to Cass and Agent Blackwood. "These swatches contain trace amounts, enough for scent recognition, but not enough to pose any health risk." Blackwood nodded, her expression serious. "How distinctive is this scent profile? Will the K-9 be able to differentiate it from other chemical signatures he might encounter?" Dr. Patel adjusted her glasses, considering the question. "The combination of precursors is quite unique. It's not something you'd encounter in everyday environments. If your suspects have been handling these materials, they'll have trace amounts on their clothing, skin, and any equipment they've used." Cass knelt beside Maverick, maintaining eye contact with the focused dog. Maverick is one of our best scent-specific trackers, she assured them. Once he locks onto this signature, he'll be able to follow it even through urban environments with competing odors. We've prepared a tactical approach, Blackwood continued, spreading a map across a nearby table. Based on Officer Reeves's recollection of the woman at the airport and our analysis of potential targets, we've identified 3 primary search zones. She pointed to areas marked on the map: the university campus, the downtown convention center where a technology summit was currently underway, and the city's water treatment facility. Each of these locations represents a potential target for a chemical attack, she explained. High population density, critical infrastructure, or both. Where do we start? Cass asked, studying the map. The university, Blackwood decided. If our female operative has connections there, it's our best lead for finding Mercer and the syndicate's base of operations. Dr. Patel approached with the scent container, carefully opening it for Maverick. He should get a good imprint of the chemical signature, she instructed. Let him take his time. Cass gave Maverick the command to sniff the sample. Search, Maverick, find it. The German Shepherd approached the container methodically, his nostrils flaring as he processed the complex chemical scent. He inhaled deeply several times, his brain cataloging the unique olfactory signature, committing it to memory alongside the thousands of other scents he had been trained to recognize. After a thorough investigation of the sample, Maverick looked up at Cass, his body language signaling readiness. This was the same scent he had detected at the airport and again on the fake doctors at the hospital. Now he had a clear imprint to work with, enhancing his already remarkable tracking abilities. He's got it, Cass confirmed, recognizing the subtle changes in Maverick's posture and expression. He's ready. Blackwood nodded, already moving toward the door. My team is standing by. We'll maintain communication through secure channels only. If the syndicate has infiltrated the university, they may be monitoring the standard police frequencies. Within minutes, they were en route to Westport University, a sprawling campus on the city's north side known for its cutting-edge research facilities and diverse student population. Maverick rode in the specially equipped K9 vehicle with Cass, his focus unwavering despite the urgency surrounding them. The campus was busy with students moving between classes, creating a complex environment of competing scents, sounds, and movements. As they parked near the science complex, Blackwood briefed the small team of FBI agents who would support the tracking operation while maintaining a low profile to avoid alerting potential syndicate operatives. We follow the K9's lead, she instructed. Keep communications minimal and stay dispersed. We don't want to tip our hand until we locate the target. Cass attached Maverick's tracking harness, different from his standard patrol equipment. This specialized gear signaled to the dog that they were on a specific scent mission, helping him focus his extraordinary senses on the task at hand. Search, Maverick, she commanded, presenting the scent sample one more time before securing it in a specialized pouch on her belt. Maverick immediately lowered his nose to the ground, beginning the methodical process of searching for the chemical signature. He moved with purpose through the campus grounds, weaving between groups of students who barely noticed the working dog and his handler. For nearly 40 minutes, Maverick quartered the area around the science buildings, occasionally pausing to check the air currents before continuing his search. Cass maintained the perfect distance, close enough to read his subtle signals, but not so close as to interfere with his work. Blackwood and her team followed at a discreet distance, communicating through subtle hand signals and encrypted earpieces. The tension grew with each passing minute, the awareness of what was at stake weighing heavily on everyone involved. Suddenly, Maverick's behavior changed. His head lifted, nose sampling the air currents more intently. He turned sharply toward the biochemistry building, his pace quickening with newfound purpose. He's got something, Cass reported quietly into her communications device. Moving toward the east entrance of the Hoffman Biochemistry Center. Copy that, Blackwood responded, approaching from alternate angles. Maintain visual but keep distance. Maverick led them confidently now, his tracking pattern more direct as he followed an increasingly strong scent trail. As they approached the building, he paused at a bike rack, showing particular interest in one specific bicycle, a black mountain bike with distinctive blue trim. Marking transportation, Cass noted, photographing the bike discreetly with her phone. Possible suspect vehicle. Maverick continued into the building, his nails clicking softly against the polished floor as he navigated the corridors with increasing urgency. Students and faculty moved past them, some curious about the police K9, but most too absorbed in their own activities to pay much attention. On the third floor, Maverick's behavior intensified. His body language shifted subtly, ears forward, muscles tensed, his tracking pattern becoming more focused as he approached a laboratory door marked Advanced Chemical Analysis, Authorized Personnel Only. He sat abruptly in front of the door, the trained signal that he had located his target sent. Confirmed hit, Cass reported quietly. Third floor, East Wing, room 317. Blackwood approached carefully, positioning agents at strategic points throughout the corridor. "Any visual on suspects?" she asked, her voice low and controlled. Cass peered through the small window in the laboratory door. Inside, she could see 3 people working at different stations. One of them, a woman with distinctive white blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, matched Ethan's description from the airport. Positive ID on the female suspect from the airport, Cass confirmed. 2 additional individuals present. No visual on Mercer. Maintain position, Blackwood instructed. We need to determine if this is their primary location or just one node in their operation. Maverick remained focused on the door, his body tense but controlled, waiting for his next command. His training allowed him to maintain this alert state for extended periods, his concentration unwavering despite the activity around them. A student approached, apparently intending to enter the lab. Blackwood intercepted him smoothly, flashing her credentials. FBI, this area is temporarily restricted. Please use an alternate laboratory. The student's eyes widened, but he complied without question, hurrying away down the corridor. Inside the lab, the blonde woman appeared to notice the brief interaction outside the door. She said something to her colleagues, then moved to a computer terminal, typing rapidly. "Suspect is aware of our presence," Cass reported, watching through the window. "Possible alert being sent." "Move in now," Blackwood commanded, drawing her weapon. "Secure all suspects and equipment." As FBI agents positioned themselves, Cass prepared Maverick for possible apprehension. "Ready, Maverick," she said quietly, her hand on his harness. The door burst open as Blackwood and her team entered, weapons drawn. "FBI, say nobody move! Hands where we can see them!" The lab technicians froze, raising their hands slowly, all except the blonde woman, who lunged for what appeared to be a panic button beneath her workstation. "Maverick, apprehend," Cass commanded, releasing the German Shepherd. Maverick launched forward with explosive speed, crossing the laboratory in seconds. Before the woman could reach the button, he had her arm in his jaws, applying precisely the right amount of pressure to immobilize without causing serious injury. The woman cried out, more in surprise than pain, as Maverick forced her to the ground, maintaining his hold until Cass approached to secure her. "Dr. Eleanor Voss," the woman spat as Cass handcuffed her. "I'm a tenured professor here. This is outrageous." "Save it," Blackwood replied coldly, already examining the computer terminal where Voss had been working. "We know about your connection to the Viper Syndicate and Victor Mercer." The name caused a visible reaction in Voss, a slight widening of the eyes, a momentary tension in her jaw that confirmed they were on the right track. "I don't know what you're talking about," she insisted, though her earlier confidence had faltered. Maverick moved through the laboratory, continuing to track the chemical signature. He stopped at a storage cabinet, alerting with the same sitting posture he had used at the door. An FBI technician carefully opened the cabinet, revealing several containers of chemicals and what appeared to be partially assembled components similar to those found in the airport luggage. "Jackpot," the technician confirmed. "Precursors for VX7 and dispersal components." Blackwood turned back to Voss, her expression hardening. "Manufacturing chemical weapons is a federal offense with a life sentence, Dr. Voss. Your only chance at leniency is to tell us where Mercer is and what the target is." Voss maintained her defiant silence. But one of the other lab technicians, a young man who appeared to be a graduate student, broke under the pressure. "The convention center," he blurted, his voice shaking. "The International Technology Summit. That's all I know, I swear. I thought we were just synthesizing compounds for a research project. I didn't know they were weapons." Blackwood immediately reached for her communications device. "All units, potential target identified as the Downtown Convention Center, currently hosting the Technology Summit. Deploy hazmat and evacuation teams immediately. Cass looked to Maverick, who had continued his methodical search of the laboratory, his nose leading him to a laptop partially hidden beneath research papers. He's still tracking, she noted, following the German Shepherd. There's more here. An FBI tech specialist carefully opened the laptop, bypassing the login screen with specialized equipment. It's encrypted, but he paused, eyes widening as he accessed the files. This isn't just about the convention center. It's a coordinated attack on 3 targets simultaneously: the water treatment plant and university campus, Blackwood guessed grimly, recalling their earlier analysis. No, the technician corrected, scanning through the files. The convention center, Westport Central Station, and he looked up, his expression grave. Clearwater Memorial Hospital. Cass felt her blood run cold. The hospital where Ethan is? It's not about silencing Officer Reeves, Blackwood realized, the pieces falling into place. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. The hospital was always a target, maximum casualties, disruption of emergency services, and we just left him there with minimal protection, Cass added, already reaching for her phone to warn Rivera. Maverick, sensing the shift in energy, moved back to Cass's side, his posture alert and ready. He had completed his tracking mission, leading them to the Syndicate's university operation, but his instincts told him their work was far from done. No signal, Cass reported, staring at her phone in frustration. They're jamming communications. Standard pre-attack protocol, Blackwood confirmed grimly. We need to move now. Split teams, one to the convention center, one to the train station, and one back to the hospital. She turned to Cass and Maverick. Officer Winters, you and the K-9 head back to Clearwater Memorial. If Mercer is coordinating this attack, he might be there personally to ensure Officer Reeves doesn't survive this time. Cass nodded, already moving toward the door with Maverick at her side. The German Shepherd needed no explanation to understand the urgency. His entire body language had shifted to high alert, sensing that his partner was once again in danger. As they raced back to the vehicle, Maverick's focus was absolute. The complex chemical scent he had been tracking was now firmly imprinted in his mind, and he knew, with the certainty that came from years of training and the unbreakable bond with his partner, that he would need every ounce of his remarkable abilities for what lay ahead. The race against time had begun, with countless lives hanging in the balance. But for Maverick, it all came down to one simple, driving purpose: protect Ethan, no matter the cost. The streets of Westport blurred past as Cass pushed the K-9 vehicle to its limits, lights flashing and siren wailing. Beside her, Maverick stood braced in his specially designed compartment, his body tense with anticipation, his amber eyes fixed on the road ahead. Central Dispatch, this is K-9-2, Cass called into her radio, trying once more to establish communication. Emergency situation at Clearwater Memorial, requesting immediate backup and hazmat response. Potential chemical attack in progress. Only Static answered her call, confirming her fears that the Syndicate had implemented wide-spectrum jamming of emergency frequencies. A sophisticated tactic that pointed to Mercer's military background. We're on our own, Maverick, she told the German Shepherd, who responded with a short, determined bark. His focus never wavered. He understood their mission with crystal clarity. Clearwater Memorial Hospital came into view, its modern glass facade gleaming in the late afternoon sun. From the outside, everything appeared normal. Ambulances at the emergency entrance, visitors entering and exiting, the usual rhythm of a busy medical center. But Cass's trained eye caught the subtle signs of something amiss. Security guards missing from their usual posts, a delivery truck parked in a restricted area, and most tellingly, the absence of the FBI surveillance team that should have been positioned around the perimeter. She parked the vehicle in the ambulance bay, knowing that every second counted. "Come, Maverick," she commanded, releasing the German Shepherd from his compartment. Maverick leapt out, immediately scanning their surroundings, his nose sampling the air. Within seconds, his posture changed, head lifting, ears forward, body tensing. He had detected the chemical signature they'd been tracking. "Find it, Maverick," Cass instructed, drawing her service weapon. "Find Ethan." The German Shepherd needed no further prompting. He moved with purpose toward the main entrance, Cass following closely behind. Inside the lobby, the scene appeared deceptively normal. Patients waiting, staff moving between departments, the mundane business of healthcare continuing uninterrupted. Maverick paused briefly, processing the complex mixture of scents in the busy hospital environment, then turned decisively toward the service elevators, the same ones used during the previous attempt on Ethan's life. As they approached, a maintenance worker emerged from the elevator, pushing a cart loaded with what appeared to be HVAC equipment. Maverick's reaction was immediate, a low, threatening growl, his body shifting into a pre-attack stance. The worker looked up, his eyes widening at the sight of the police K9 and Cass's drawn weapon. In an instant, his demeanor changed from casual indifference to alert aggression. He abandoned the cart and reached inside his jumpsuit. "Police, don't move!" Cass shouted, but the man was already pulling a concealed weapon. Maverick reacted with explosive speed, launching himself at the assailant before he could aim. The German Shepherd's powerful body collided with the man, sending them both crashing to the floor as screams erupted throughout the lobby. The disguise operative fought desperately, trying to bring his weapon to bear, but Maverick's jaws clamped around his wrist with precision, forcing him to drop the gun. It skittered across the polished floor, coming to rest against the abandoned cart. Cass moved in quickly, securing the suspect while Maverick maintained his hold. "Where's Mercer?" she demanded, applying handcuffs with practiced efficiency. "What's the timeline for the attack?" The man's only response was a defiant smile. "You're too late," he said in accented English. "The dispersal systems are already in place." Maverick released his hold on command but immediately turned his attention to the abandoned cart, alerting with a distinctive bark that Cass recognized from his hazardous materials training. "Everyone out of the lobby now!" she shouted, her voice carrying the unmistakable authority of law enforcement. "Security, initiate evacuation protocols." As hospital security responded to her commands, beginning the complex process of evacuating hundreds of patients and staff, Cass approached the cart cautiously. Hidden beneath legitimate maintenance equipment, she found what appeared to be a sophisticated dispersal device connected to the hospital's ventilation system. Exactly as Ethan had described from his knowledge of Mercer's expertise. "We need to disable it," she muttered, studying the device without touching it. Her training in explosive ordnance disposal gave her a basic understanding of the system, but this was far more advanced than anything she had encountered before. A familiar voice called from across the lobby, "Officer Winters!" Cass looked up to see Detective Rivera emerging from a stairwell, his weapon drawn, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. "Rivera, what happened?" she called, relief flooding through her at the sight of a friendly face. "Ambush," he replied grimly, joining her beside the cart. "4 operatives disguised as hospital staff. They took out our security detail and the FBI agents. I managed to get to the stairwell when they breached the ICU. Ethan?" Cass asked, dreading the answer. "Still alive when I left him," Rivera assured her. "Dr. Chen barricaded them in a secure treatment room. But Mercer is here, Cass. He's leading the operation personally." Maverick's ears perked up at this information, his body tensing with renewed purpose. Without waiting for a command, he turned toward the stairwell, clearly intent on reaching his partner. "Maverick, wait!" Cass called, but the German Shepherd had already made his decision. His training was impeccable, his discipline legendary among the K9 unit, but when it came to Ethan's safety, his protective instinct overrode everything else. "Go with him," Rivera instructed, gesturing to the device on the cart. "I've got some EOD training. I'll try to disable this while you find Reeves and Mercer." Cass hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Be careful. There should be 2 more devices somewhere in the hospital, 1 for each target. I'll call in every available officer once I get communications back online," Rivera promised. "Now go!" Cass sprinted after Maverick, who was already disappearing into the stairwell. The German Shepherd moved with single-minded determination, taking the stairs 3 at a time, his powerful muscles propelling him upward toward the ICU. As they reached the 5th floor, Maverick paused, his nose working overtime as he processed the complex mixture of scents. The chemical signature was stronger here, mingled with the metallic smell of blood and the acrid scent of discharged weapons. The ICU corridor showed signs of a violent struggle. Overturned equipment, bullet holes in the walls, and most alarmingly, the bodies of 2 FBI agents lying motionless near the nurse's station. Cass checked them quickly, confirming her worst fears. They had died protecting their assignment. Maverick moved cautiously now, his training taking precedence as he navigated the potentially dangerous environment. He paused at each doorway, checking for threats before proceeding, leading Cass deeper into the ICU toward Ethan's room. The door to Ethan's original room stood open, the space clearly empty. Maverick showed no interest in it, confirming Rivera's statement that Ethan had been moved. Instead, the German Shepherd turned toward a reinforced door marked Isolation Unit, his posture indicating he had detected his partner's scent. Cass approached cautiously, listening for any sounds from within. She could hear muffled voices, a woman's urgent whispers, and a man's pained responses. Dr. Chen and Ethan, she realized with relief. Dr. Chen, she called softly. It's Officer Winters. Is Ethan with you? A moment of silence followed before Dr. Chen's cautious reply came through the door. Officer Winters, is it clear out there? Not yet, Cass admitted, but I have Maverick with me. We need to get Ethan to safety. Mercer is in the building, and they're planning to release a chemical agent through the ventilation system. The sound of electronic locks disengaging preceded the door opening, just enough for Dr. Chen to peer out. Her face tight with stress and exhaustion. When she confirmed Cass's identity, she opened the door fully, revealing Ethan sitting on the edge of an examination table, his hospital gown replaced by scrubs, his injured shoulder freshly bandaged. Maverick, Ethan exclaimed, his voice weak but filled with relief as the German Shepherd rushed to his side, whining softly and pressing against his uninjured side. We don't have much time, Cass said urgently, helping Ethan to his feet. The Syndicate is targeting 3 locations simultaneously: the Convention Center, Central Station, and this hospital. Rivera is working on disabling the device in the lobby, but there may be others. There are, Ethan confirmed, wincing as he stood. Mercer's standard deployment includes redundant systems. He'll have at least one backup device, probably in the ventilation control room on the roof. Dr. Chen gathered essential medical supplies, stuffing them into a small bag. He needs a hospital, but not this one, she said grimly. We need to get him out before they release the agent. Maverick suddenly tensed, his attention shifting to the corridor outside the isolation unit. A low growl rumbled from his chest as his hackles rose, a warning that danger was approaching. Cass moved to the doorway, peering cautiously into the corridor. At first, she saw nothing, but then a shadow moved near the nurse's station. A figure in tactical gear, checking the fallen FBI agents, his movements precise and methodical in a way that spoke of military training. Mercer, Ethan whispered, recognizing his former comrade even from a distance. As if hearing his name, the figure looked up, his gaze locking with Cass's across the ICU. For a moment, neither moved, predator and prey assessing each other in the split second before violence erupted. Victor Mercer was an imposing figure, tall and powerfully built, with close-cropped gray hair and the hard eyes of a man who had seen too much combat. The Syndicate logo was visible on his tactical vest, the eagle and serpent emblem displayed prominently as if he took pride in his allegiance. Officer Reeves, he called, his voice carrying easily through the quiet corridor. I see you're more resilient than expected. I'm impressed. It's over, Mercer, Ethan called back, his voice stronger than Cass had expected. The FBI has your lab at the university. They know about all 3 targets. Mercer's laugh held no humor. Contingency planning, Reeves. You should remember that from our training. The primary devices are merely distractions. The real payload is already in place where no one will think to look until it's too late. Maverick growled again, more intensely this time, his body coiled and ready to attack at Cass's command. You won't make it out of here, Cass warned Mercer, her weapon trained on his center mass. The building is being evacuated and every available officer is on the way. Perhaps, Mercer acknowledged with chilling calm, but I'll complete my mission first. His hand moved to a device on his belt. A remote detonator, Cass realized with horror. Maverick, take him down, she commanded. But before the words were fully out of her mouth, the German Shepherd was already in motion. Maverick launched himself down the corridor with explosive speed, a blur of muscle and fur intent on a single purpose: stopping Mercer before he could activate the detonator. The distance between them closed in seconds, Maverick's powerful legs propelling him forward with everything he had. Mercer's eyes widened in surprise at the dog's speed. He raised his weapon, firing twice. But Maverick's momentum was unstoppable. The German Shepherd slammed into him with the force of a battering ram, knocking the gun from his hand and sending them both crashing into the nurse's station. Cass moved immediately, positioning herself protectively in front of Ethan and Dr. Chen, while maintaining her aim on the struggle before them. "Get to the stairwell," she instructed them. "I'll cover you." "I'm not leaving Maverick," Ethan insisted, his loyalty to his partner overriding his own safety. The fight between Maverick and Mercer was vicious and desperate. Despite his training and physical prowess, Mercer found himself outmatched by the German Shepherd's speed and power. Maverick's jaws clamped around his arm, preventing him from reaching the detonator that had fallen nearby. Mercer howled in pain and rage, striking at Maverick with his free hand, landing blows that would have incapacitated a less determined opponent. But Maverick held firm, his training and protective instinct driving him beyond normal endurance. "Call off your dog and I might let you live," Mercer shouted, blood streaming from the wounds on his arm. "Maverick, hold!" Cass commanded, advancing cautiously with her weapon still trained on Mercer. The German Shepherd maintained his grip but stopped shaking, keeping Mercer pinned while Cass approached. She kicked the fallen detonator well out of reach, then the discarded weapon. "Victor Mercer, you're under arrest for terrorism, attempted murder of a police officer, and conspiracy to deploy weapons of mass destruction," she stated formally. Though the gravity of his crimes made the ritual almost absurd, Mercer's response was a cold smile. "You think this ends with me? The Syndicate has operations in 20 countries. This is just one node in a global network." "Maybe," Ethan acknowledged, moving carefully to stand beside Cass, his face pale with pain and exhaustion, but his eyes clear and determined. "But today, it ends here." A sudden commotion from the stairwell heralded the arrival of Rivera and a tactical team, their weapons raised as they secured the area. "Devices in the lobby and second floor disabled," Rivera reported. "Bomb squad is checking the roof now. Convention center and train station are being evacuated." "Maverick, release," Ethan commanded, his voice gentle despite the tension surrounding them. The German Shepherd immediately obeyed, backing away from Mercer but maintaining his alert stance, ready to re-engage if necessary. Blood matted his fur where one of Mercer's bullets, how the German Shepherd immediately obeyed, backing away from Mercer but maintaining his alert stance, ready to re-engage if necessary. Blood matted his fur where one of Mercer's bullets had grazed his shoulder, but the wound appeared superficial, his focus and energy undiminished despite the injury. Tactical officers moved in to secure Mercer, applying reinforced restraints designed for high-risk prisoners. As they pulled him to his feet, Mercer locked eyes with Ethan one last time. "We were brothers once, Reeves," he said, his voice carrying a hint of what might have been regret. "We could have changed the world together. We took an oath to protect, not destroy," Ethan replied steadily. "You forgot that somewhere along the way." As Mercer was led away, Ethan knelt beside Maverick, carefully examining the wound on his shoulder. "You need a vet, buddy," he murmured, his fingers gently probing the injury. Maverick whined softly, pressing against Ethan's hand, his amber eyes never leaving his partner's face. The mission was complete, the threat neutralized, but his vigilance remained undiminished. "Officer Reeves needs medical attention too," Dr. Chen insisted, her professional concern overriding the chaos around them. "That shoulder wound could reopen, and he's still recovering from the effects of the sedative." Rivera approached, holstering his weapon. "Bomb squad found and disabled the device on the roof," he reported. "They're sweeping the rest of the building, but it looks like we got them all. FBI teams at the convention center and train station report the same. All devices located and neutralized." "What about Mercer's comment about a real payload?" Cass asked, the terrorist's ominous words still echoing in her mind. Rivera shook his head. "Could be a bluff, or..." "It's not," Ethan interrupted, his face suddenly pale with realization. "The water supply, that's what he meant by where no one will think to look. The original VX-7 was designed to be water-soluble. The implications hit them all simultaneously." If the syndicate had introduced the nerve agent into the city's water supply, the casualties would be catastrophic, potentially affecting hundreds of thousands of people. "I need to contact Blackwood immediately," Rivera said, already reaching for his radio. "The water treatment facility needs to be shut down and tested." As Rivera coordinated the emergency response, Ethan sagged against the wall, the adrenaline that had kept him going finally ebbing. Maverick pressed against his leg, offering silent support despite his own injury. "You two need medical attention," Cass insisted, moving to support Ethan. "Dr. Chen, is there another hospital nearby where we can take them?" "Riverside Medical Center is only 15 minutes away," Dr. Chen confirmed. "I'll call ahead and make arrangements." As they prepared to transport Ethan and Maverick, a call came through on Rivera's radio. He listened intently, his expression gradually shifting from tension to relief. "That was Blackwood," he reported, rejoining the group. "Water treatment facility is secure. They found evidence of an attempted breach, but the syndicate operatives were intercepted before they could introduce the agent. Looks like Mercer's plan failed on all fronts." The collective relief was palpable, though tempered by the knowledge of how close they had come to catastrophe. As emergency medical technicians arrived to transport Ethan, he kept one hand firmly on Maverick's head, refusing to be separated from his partner. "The dog rides with me," he insisted when one of the EMTs questioned Maverick's presence. "He's injured too, and he just saved this entire city. He stays." The EMT wisely chose not to argue, helping both Ethan and Maverick onto the gurney. As they were wheeled toward the elevator, Cass and Rivera followed, their expressions reflecting the complex mixture of exhaustion, relief, and lingering concern that followed such operations. "Will you be okay?" Cass asked Ethan quietly as they descended to the ground floor. Ethan looked down at Maverick, who remained alert despite his injury, his loyal eyes never leaving his partner's face. "We will be," he answered with quiet certainty. "We always are together." Riverside Medical Center's veterinary wing was rarely used for police canines, but the staff had risen to the occasion admirably. Dr. Sarah Tanner, the hospital's chief veterinarian, had personally overseen Maverick's treatment, coordinating with the medical team attending to Ethan to ensure the partners remained as close as possible during their recovery. 3 days after the thwarted attack, Maverick lay on a specialized padding in Ethan's private room, his shoulder bandaged but healing well. The bullet had grazed rather than penetrated, requiring only minor surgery to clean and close the wound. He wore a protective cone, much to his evident dismay, to prevent him from disturbing the stitches. Ethan, propped up in his hospital bed, looked considerably better than he had immediately following the confrontation with Mercer. Color had returned to his face, and though his shoulder remained heavily bandaged, his overall condition had improved significantly. He was engaged in the frustrating but necessary task of filling out official reports on a laptop provided by the department. "You know, you could wait until you're discharged to do that," Cass observed from the doorway, carrying a tray with coffee and what appeared to be contraband food items not approved by the hospital's dietary department. "And miss the chance to document everything while it's fresh?" Ethan replied with a wry smile. "Besides, I'm going stir-crazy in here. Paperwork is actually a welcome distraction." Maverick's ears perked up at Cass's arrival, his tail thumping against the padding in greeting. The protective cone bumped awkwardly against the floor as he attempted to rise. "Stay, Maverick," Cass instructed gently. "You need to rest too." She set the tray on the bedside table and pulled up a chair. "I brought real coffee and some actual food. Figured you could use a break from hospital fare." "You're a lifesaver," Ethan said with genuine gratitude, reaching for the coffee. "Any updates on the investigation?" Cass nodded, her expression growing more serious. "Blackwood's team has been working around the clock. They've identified syndicate cells in 3 other cities based on information from Mercer and Dr. Voss. International agencies are coordinating to take them down simultaneously. And the nerve agent? All accounted for," Cass assured him. "The FBI secured every vial from the university lab, and the components from the airport and hospital have been neutralized. The water treatment facility was thoroughly tested, no contamination detected." Ethan exhaled slowly, relief evident in his features. "Good. That's good." He glanced down at Maverick, who was watching him with attentive eyes despite his evident discomfort with the cone. "Hear that, buddy? Mission accomplished." Maverick's tail thumped again, his amber eyes reflecting an understanding that sometimes seemed to transcend the barriers between species. "He's become something of a celebrity, you know," Cass mentioned, reaching down to gently stroke Maverick's uninjured side. "The media got hold of the story. Heroic K9 thwarts terror plot. The chief's been fielding interview requests non-stop." Ethan chuckled, though the movement caused him to wince slightly. Fame was never part of his training regimen. He's happiest when he's working, not posing for cameras. "Speaking of work," Cass continued, her tone shifting subtly, "Rivera wanted me to discuss something with you. Once you're cleared for duty, of course." "I'm listening," Ethan said, his curiosity piqued. "The department is expanding the K9 unit," she explained. "After what happened with the syndicate, there's been increased funding for specialized detection and tracking dogs. Rivera's been put in charge of the expansion, and he wants you to head up the training program." Ethan's eyebrows rose in surprise. "Me? I'm a field officer, not an instructor." "You're both," Cass countered. "You and Maverick have the best record in the department. And after this case, you've got the kind of real-world experience that can't be taught from a manual." She paused, gauging his reaction. It would mean less field work, more predictable hours, but a chance to shape the entire unit. Ethan was silent for a moment, processing the offer. His gaze drifted to Maverick, who had closed his eyes but remained alert, his ears shifting slightly at each new sound. "I'd still work with Maverick?" he asked finally. "Of course," Cass confirmed. "You'd be a team, demonstrating techniques, developing new protocols. You'd be setting the standard for the entire K9 division." Before Ethan could respond, a knock at the door announced the arrival of Detective Rivera and Agent Blackwood. Rivera carried a folder under his arm, while Blackwood held what appeared to be a small package. "Officer Reeves," Blackwood greeted him formally. "Good to see you recovering well." Maverick's eyes opened immediately at the new arrivals, his posture shifting subtly as he assessed them. Recognizing friendly faces, he relaxed again, though his attention remained fixed on the visitors. "We have some new," Rivera announced without preamble. His typically gruff demeanor softened slightly in deference to the hospital setting. "The U.S. Attorney has formally charged Mercer and 17 other syndicate operatives with terrorism, attempted use of weapons of mass destruction, and conspiracy. Based on the evidence we gathered, they're looking at life sentences, no possibility of parole." "Good," Ethan said simply. "They earned it." "There's more," Blackwood added. "Based on information extracted from the syndicate's communications, we've identified and secured 3 additional caches of chemical weapons components in different states. This operation didn't just save Westport, it potentially prevented attacks across the country." The weight of this revelation settled over the room. What had begun as a routine patrol at the airport had escalated into a case with national security implications, all because of Maverick's extraordinary sensory capabilities and unwavering dedication. "Which brings us to this," Blackwood continued, placing the package she had been carrying on Ethan's bed. "A small token of appreciation from the Bureau." Ethan opened the package carefully, revealing a specialized tactical vest for Maverick. Far more advanced than standard K9 equipment, it featured lightweight ballistic panels, integrated cooling technology, and attachment points for specialized gear. "This is prototype equipment," Blackwood explained. "Developed for our elite K9 units. Your partner has more than earned it." Maverick's attention was immediately captured by the new equipment, his nose twitching with interest despite the awkward cone. "Thank you," Ethan said sincerely, examining the vest with professional appreciation. "This is exceptional gear." "There's one more thing," Rivera added, opening the folder he had brought. "The department's commendation." He handed Ethan an official document bearing the signatures of the Chief of Police and the Mayor. "Both you and Maverick are receiving the Medal of Valor. Ceremony scheduled for next month once you're back on your feet." Ethan accepted the document, clearly moved by the recognition. "Maverick did the hard part," he said, glancing at his partner. "I just followed his lead." "That's what makes you an exceptional team," Rivera observed, "and why I want you heading up our expanded K9 training program." He looked to Cass. "I see Officer Winters has already mentioned the offer." "She has," Ethan confirmed. "I'm still considering it." "Take your time," Rivera assured him. "The position will be there when you're ready." As Rivera and Blackwood prepared to leave, the detective paused at the door. "One more thing, Reeves. Dr. Chen asked me to check on you both. She's been coordinating with the medical team here, making sure you're getting proper care. Tell her we're grateful, Ethan replied, for everything. After the visitors departed, Ethan sat in thoughtful silence, the commendation in one hand, the other resting gently on Maverick's head. The German Shepherd leaned into his touch, a gesture of connection that transcended their professional partnership. "What do you think, Maverick?" Ethan asked quietly. "Ready to teach the next generation of K9 teams?" Maverick's response was to press closer, his amber eyes meeting Ethan's with that peculiar mixture of intelligence and devotion that had defined their relationship from the beginning. "Yeah," Ethan nodded as if the dog had actually answered. "I think we could do some good there." Cass watched the interaction with a smile, once again struck by the profound bond between Handler and K9. It wasn't just training or professional partnership. It was something deeper, a connection forged through shared danger and absolute trust. "You know, as she observed, I think Maverick would follow you anywhere, doing whatever job needed doing. That's what makes him exceptional." "That works both ways," Ethan replied, his expression softening as he looked at his partner. "We're a team, through and through." Outside the window, the setting sun cast golden light across the room, illuminating Handler and K9 in a warm glow that seemed to underscore the truth of Ethan's words. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as they always had, as they always would. 6 months after the syndicate case, the Westport Police Department's K9 Training Center was barely recognizable. What had once been a modest facility with basic equipment had been transformed into a state-of-the-art complex, complete with specialized training areas, modern kennels, and advanced simulation technology. Ethan stood in the center of the main training yard, watching as 6 Handler K9 teams navigated a complex obstacle course designed to test both physical abilities and communication. Beside him, Maverick observed with what could only be described as professional interest, his amber eyes tracking each team's performance with remarkable focus. The German Shepherd had fully recovered from his injuries, the only reminder being a small patch of fur that had grown back slightly darker on his shoulder where the bullet had grazed him. He wore his new tactical vest, a modified version of the FBI prototype that had been adjusted to his specific measurements and needs. "Handler Thompson, you're anticipating the turn instead of letting Rex make the decision," Ethan called out to one of the newer teams. "Trust your partner's instincts. He knows what he's doing, even if you don't see it yet." The young officer nodded, adjusting his approach as he and his Belgian Malinois continued through the course. The improvement was immediate. A smoother transition, better timing, enhanced communication between handler and dog. "You've got a gift for this," Cass observed, approaching from the administrative building. Now serving as Ethan's second in command at the training center, she had taken to her new role with characteristic dedication and skill. "They're doing all the work," Ethan demurred, though his pride in the progress of his teams was evident. "I'm just pointing out what they already know deep down." "False modesty doesn't suit you, Reeves," she teased, handing him a tablet displaying the latest performance metrics for the training program. Graduation rates up 30%, field performance evaluations showing marked improvement across all specialties, and 2 successful deployments already from the new narcotics detection teams. Ethan reviewed the data with satisfaction. "The department made a good investment." "In you and Maverick," Cass agreed. "Speaking of which, your 4 o'clock is here." Ethan checked his watch, surprised by how quickly the day had passed. "Already? Have them wait in the demonstration area. We'll be there in 5 minutes." As Cass departed to greet the visitors, Ethan knelt beside Maverick, adjusting the straps on his tactical vest. "Ready for a demonstration, partner? Time to show them what elite really looks like." Maverick's posture shifted immediately, his body language transitioning from relaxed observation to focused readiness. After 6 months in their new roles, he had adapted seamlessly to the training environment, seeming to understand intuitively when to demonstrate techniques and when to observe. Together, they made their way to the specialized demonstration area where a group of visitors waited. Detective Rivera stood with several uniformed officers and what appeared to be civilian observers. Members of the City Council's Public Safety Committee, Ethan realized, recognizing the chairperson from previous briefings. Officer Reeves, Rivera greeted him with a nod. The committee wanted to see firsthand what their funding has accomplished. I told them there was no better demonstration than watching you and Maverick in action. We'd be happy to show them, Ethan replied, addressing the group. Today, we'll demonstrate advanced scent discrimination and tactical response protocols that all our K9 teams are now trained in. For the next 30 minutes, Ethan and Maverick put on a masterclass in K9 operations. The German Shepherd moved through complex scenarios with precision and intelligence, locating hidden scent samples among dozens of distractions, responding to silent commands, demonstrating controlled apprehension techniques, and navigating obstacle courses designed to simulate urban environments. The committee members watched with evident amazement, particularly during a scenario where Maverick successfully identified a specific chemical signature similar to the one from the Syndicate case, alerting with perfect precision despite numerous similar compounds placed to confuse him. Remarkable, the committee chairperson commented as the demonstration concluded. It's hard to believe this is the same unit from a year ago. The foundation was always strong, Ethan explained, Maverick sitting attentively at his side. We've just built upon it, incorporating lessons from field experiences and advances in training methodology. Like your experience with the Syndicate case, one of the committee members observed. Exactly, Ethan confirmed. Real-world applications inform our training scenarios. Every K9 team now receives specific training in chemical detection and threat assessment based on what Maverick encountered during that operation. As the committee continued their tour of the facility with Rivera, Ethan took a moment to reward Maverick for his flawless performance. The German Shepherd accepted the treat with dignified appreciation, his amber eyes never leaving his partner's face. You never stop amazing me, you know that? Ethan told him quietly, scratching behind his ears in the spot he particularly enjoyed. Maverick leaned into the touch, the connection between them as strong as ever, despite their transition from field operations to training. Their partnership had evolved, but remained at its core what it had always been, a bond built on absolute trust and mutual respect. Later that evening, as the training center quieted for the day, Ethan completed his administrative tasks in the office that still felt somewhat foreign to him. He had never imagined himself behind a desk, yet the satisfaction of seeing new Handler K9 teams develop under his guidance had proven unexpectedly fulfilling. A knock at the door announced Cass's arrival, her expression suggesting she had news to share. Just got word from Blackwood, she reported. The last of the Syndicate's North American cells has been dismantled. 17 arrests across 3 cities, all based on intelligence developed from our case. Good, Ethan said simply, the single word carrying the weight of what that meant for public safety. She also mentioned that Mercer's trial has been scheduled. Federal prosecutors are confident of a conviction on all counts. Ethan nodded, his expression thoughtful. The mention of his former comrade still evoked complex emotions. The memory of who Mercer had been before he changed. The potential wasted, the lives endangered by his choices. You know, Cass said, changing the subject as she sensed his discomfort. The new trainees have a nickname for you too. They call Maverick the Professor when you're not around. This drew a genuine laugh from Ethan. The Professor? Really? They say he watches them like he's grading their performance, Cass explained with a smile. And they swear he knows when they've made a mistake before you do. He probably does, Ethan acknowledged, glancing at Maverick, who had settled on his specialized bed in the corner of the office. His observation skills are exceptional. As if aware he was being discussed, Maverick lifted his head, those intelligent amber eyes moving between Ethan and Cass with evident interest. Reverie mentioned the department's considering another expansion of the K9 unit, Cass continued, adding search and rescue capabilities, possibly even therapy dogs for victim support. I've seen the proposal, Ethan confirmed. It's ambitious, but worthwhile. The right dogs with the right training can make an extraordinary difference in those situations. And you'd be in charge of developing the new programs, Cass pointed out. Quite a change from patrol duty at the airport. Ethan smiled, the observation striking him anew. Life had indeed taken an unexpected turn since that fateful day when Maverick had alerted to the Syndicate operatives. What had begun as a routine patrol had cascaded into a series of events that transformed not only their careers, but potentially save countless lives. "Change can be good," he said finally, rising from his desk and gathering his things. "Ready to head home, Maverick?" The German Shepherd was on his feet immediately, his tail wagging with controlled enthusiasm. Despite his new role as a demonstration dog and training model, he remained first and foremost Ethan's partner, a constant presence both on and off duty. As they walked through the training center toward the parking area, they passed the memorial wall that had been established to honor K9s who had served with distinction. A space had already been reserved for Maverick, though with luck it would be many years before his photograph would join the others. Outside, the evening air carried the promise of spring, the harsh winter finally releasing its grip on Westport. Maverick paused, his nose lifting to sample the breeze, his senses cataloging the myriad scents that humans could never detect. Ethan waited patiently, giving his partner the time he needed to process his environment, a courtesy born of years of partnership and deep respect for the German Shepherd's extraordinary abilities. When Maverick was satisfied, he looked up at Ethan, those amber eyes reflecting the trust and connection that had carried them through danger and into this new chapter of their lives. "Let's go home, buddy," Ethan said softly. And together they walked toward the future, their steps perfectly in sync, guardian and partner, protector and friend, a team in the truest sense of the word. In the distance, the lights of Westport twinkled as darkness fell, a city made safer by their service, and the legacy they were creating with each new K9 team, trained under their watchful guidance. It wasn't the future either of them had envisioned, but as Maverick's warm presence kept pace beside him, Ethan knew with absolute certainty that it was exactly where they were meant to be. In the sterile corridors of Clearwater Memorial Hospital, a German Shepherd named Maverick stands vigilant, his amber eyes fixed on a doctor adjusting his unconscious partner's medication. While others see nothing amiss, Maverick detects the same chemical signature he encountered during the airport shooting that put Officer Ethan Reeves in this hospital bed. His instincts scream danger, and in that crucial moment, a K9's extraordinary senses become the thin line between life and death. What begins as an attempted assassination evolves into a race against time as Maverick, Officer Cassandra Winters, and Detective Marcus Rivera uncover a plot by the International Viper Syndicate to deploy a deadly nerve agent across Westport. With Ethan's military connection to the Syndicate's key operative Victor Mercer providing the only link to their plans, Maverick's remarkable abilities become central to tracking the terrorists and preventing a catastrophic attack. Through hospital corridors, university laboratories, and a final confrontation that tests the limits of his training and courage, Maverick demonstrates the unbreakable bond between handler and K9, a partnership forged in danger and defined by absolute trust. His heroism not only saves his partner, but transforms their future, leading them from field operations to training the next generation of K9 teams, ensuring their legacy of protection continues. This is more than a story of a police dog's exceptional abilities. It's a testament to the profound connection between humans and their K9 partners, a bond that transcends words, a loyalty that defies measure, and a guardian's instinct that stands unwavering when shadows strike.